you for coming to Megan's Bookish Life IG Live.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that the technology seems to be working as promised.
I always say I want to get into more video content, but then I'm like, okay, the technology aspect though. That's
You're
why.
very good at it, though. I feel like you're a champ at this.
Heidi, that was the nicest thing you've said to me so far, and we just started. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so for my warm-up question, I have to tell you, I had an IG live on Friday, and the author, she lived in the Midwest, and so do I. So I didn't want to be like, what's the weather? Because I knew the weather. But I'm gonna be an 86-year-old right now and ask what kind of weather you're having, because the US is nuts right now.
It's totally nuts. So I live in Manhattan and it snowed this morning, but now it's like, I don't know, 45 degrees. But I love the snow. All of my friends are so sick of me because I'm like, yay, snow. And they're so sick of the brown, grayish sludge in the middle of the street. But it did snow this morning in lovely Manhattan. So I was very happy about that.
Okay, so some of my friends like live in like New York City, New York, Manhattan area, and what did she say? My friend said, she goes, yeah, there's a ton of snow, but it's not like below freezing. Like it's not a bad temperature. It could be worse.
Right, it's not cold. I actually went running. There's this little park across the street that has a track, and normally it's overrun with children, but on the weekends it's not. So I was like, oh, I can finally go to the track, but like 90% of the track is clear of snow, and then there's this like 10 to 20 foot patch that's completely ice. So I was like jogging around the track, and then I would get to the icy patch and have to gingerly walk across the ice. And people were like, look, who is this crazy lady running outside? And I'm sure they were like rooting for me to slip on the ice, but I did not.
Okay, you guys are in New York. You've seen worse. Give her some slack.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, we walked to work to go to the subway through the ice and snow. I mean, we can handle it.
My big thing is I'm like, oh my God, I just sent my friend a postcard. She's not watching, thank goodness. I'm like, I hope it gets there before 2027. So we'll see.
Exactly. Yes, we'll hope that it gets there with the mail. It
Exactly.
didn't the mail used to have the slogan through rain or snow or slight or eat, or,
No, I have no idea.
heat or ice. I mean, maybe I'm remembering this from an old Seinfeld episode when when Newman worked for the Postal Service. But they have a slogan like "Nothing can stop the mail," but things stop the mail. The mail does not always arrive.
I was like, the mail has been stopped a plenty of times.
Yes, yes,
Get
yes.
the slogan out. I'm gonna. We are going to get into your book, The Map I Draw, a little bit later, but it is your travel memoir. We'll put that out there for now. But you are a big fan of solo travel, and so am I. So I gotta tell you, whenever I tell people, like, I'm gonna go to California, I've done it before by myself, they always say the phrase to me. They go, "You're so brave, I could never do that." And I say, that's not the correct word for me. But I literally went camping for the first time ever, like ever, by myself, like not even with people before. And people are like, oh, I could never, you're so brave. I said, maybe, but for the camping one, maybe, because there's probably bears somewhere. But you have been to literal other countries by yourself. And I know this does not dictate your life. Do not let it, obviously. What are some responses that people give you when you tell them you love solo travel?
See, I sort of get the opposite of the "you're so brave." I'm just in the phrasing. I get the "that's really dangerous and scary." Not like, "Oh, you're brave and you're about to do a cool thing." It's always like, "Are you sure you should be doing that? Isn't that scary?" But I also get, "Aren't you going to be lonely, or won't you get bored without somebody with you?" So those are kind of the responses I usually get. My family also sometimes is like, "That's so expensive. Should you really be spending your money on going on a trip by yourself? Instead, you should come to visit us." And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna go somewhere by myself."
I'll see you guys next time. Not this time. I have, now that you say that, I had one lady, I worked a couple years ago at a senior living community, and I'm going to say she was in her late 80s. I loved her. Named Sharon. She told me, when I told her I was going camping, I was like, Sharon, I've never even been camping before. I'm going by myself. She like started crying. She's like, "Meg, you're gonna die." She goes, "Share
Oh,
down." I said, "I'm not gonna die." But she was like, "It's so dangerous. Don't do that." I think that's the only time someone told me that. You get that a lot?
that's incredible. I mean, no one has told me that well, my I shouldn't keep bringing up my family, but they're constantly like, we'll pray that the pilot is sober. Like, really didn't need to be thinking about the sobriety of my pilot, you know. Um, but I try not to think about what could go wrong. But yes, sometimes I do get, well, you better, not, you better tie your handbag to the table if you're sitting outside. And, like some advice is smart, like, don't leave your iPhone on a table in a foreign country, or, I don't know. I also have this habit. I like to exercise, as I mentioned. I like to go running and things like that. And I always, when I'm traveling alone, will go for a walk. It's part of my travel rituals and routines because I feel like I can get through a week or longer alone if I have structure so I don't get lonely. And part of that structure is exercise. So I am constantly like, because I live in New York, I think I can just walk anywhere. So I'll be like, oh, I'm going to walk to that monument that's like 2 or 3 miles away. But little do I don't know if it's safe to like walk on certain paths or like by the highway or whatever. So I have kind of probably done some pretty stupid things. And in the map I draw, there are definitely some incidents in which I probably trust the wrong person occasionally, usually men, unfortunately. Um, but I learn from each of those adventures, and I also have started to trust my own radar of if I'm like, oh wait, maybe I really shouldn't turn down this particular street or take that particular exercise path through a forest, or so I've started to try to be a little smarter about things like that, and I've been very grateful and lucky that I've been okay in all those situations. But I think it's important. We got to still do these things that, like going camping by yourself, that's amazing. I've never done that.
Loved it.
It's incredible.
Okay, the camping thing, I did borrow a lot of things, including the tent. That's how new I was, because I was like, "Hey, friends, who's local and has a tent?"
I mean, the gear is the best part of adventures. I feel
I
like
learned how to cook over a campfire. I need to do it again. Gotta do it right now. I loved it.
I can't even cook in my regular kitchen, let alone on a campfire, but I feel like that's something I should try.
I was
Did
like,
you rub two sticks together to get the fire going?
I was like, maybe I didn't do that. I'm trying to think what I did. They had like free wood at the place, but I actually don't even know how I started that fire. It happened. I did it.
That's cool. That's very
All that
cool.
matters. I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I bet waking up in the campsite or wherever you camped just was so fun and interesting.
Yeah. After this, I'm gonna go find that site again and go do it in the summertime. I already want to do it again. But anyways, this is not about me, I promise. So you have written, which I love. I love nonfiction because I think I can say I'm a journalist. I am a journalist. I'm just in school at the end of my bachelor's degree. So love nonfiction books and writing and reading those. So you have your first three books, which I'm going to read the titles of. You've got The Introverted Lawyer, Untangling Fear and Lawyering, and The Flourishing Lawyer. So these books are definitely write what you know kind of books for you, which is, I love that. It makes it easier, but also you're helping people with things that you need help with. So give me your like backstory and coming up with the topics that you picked for these books, because you can write about anything about being a lawyer. Why are these three books the ones you wanted to write?
These three books, I needed to write them because they didn't exist. And as I shared really in all my writing, I was an introvert in college. I was an introvert in law school. I really had no business going to law school. I was 21 years old. I had no idea what I was doing with my life, but I did. And then when I graduated from law school, I was thrust into this very, argumentative, combative, very extroverted profession, and I struggled. I mean, I was good at the research and writing aspects of my job. I mean, kind of like you being in journalism school, like we research, and I loved that. And we can do that alone. We can write alone. But my job, I had to go represent people and go to court and fight and argue, and that aspect, the performance aspects of my law job, really gave me a hard time. Like I was very anxious all the time. I had a lot of fear. I had extreme public speaking anxiety. I'm also an epic blusher. You might see it on the screen today, but I turn beet red and my neck gets all blotchy when I had to go perform in the courtroom or depositions, etc. So I did that for 15 years, 15 years. I was kind of an anxious ball of nerves. But then I had the opportunity to start teaching law. I was invited to teach legal writing, which was my specialty. And I noticed in that first year of law teaching that my strongest legal writing students, my students who were the most creative and solving problems through the written word, were also the most scared to speak in class or get called on or go try out for these competition teams. And I was still scared. That first year of teaching, I had public speaking anxiety, and I was the professor. So that usually what excites me to write about something is I see a problem that I want to fix, or I want to learn something about myself, so that if other people wrestling with similar issues, if they can't find a resource that speaks to them, I wanted to write that resource. And I've been dabbling in writing memoir-y kind of stuff for, I guess I started teaching in 2008. 8 years before that, I went through a terrible relationship split. I'd been with the same person from 18 to 30. My life kind of fell apart. Yeah, we were together 12 years, married for 6. And my marriage fell apart. And I moved from Virginia to New York, and I'd started completely over. And and so for about 7 years, I was writing for the first time about that painful stuff, but I never did anything with it. So when I started teaching law, and I saw these issues happening to my students, they were nervous, they were anxious, they were sad, they were afraid. I started writing about introversion and public speaking anxiety in the law, and how I kind of had to figure out myself in order to be able to get up in front of a classroom full of students. But I found that as I was researching the introversion and anxiety and performance anxiety stuff, a lot of my past trauma as a young lawyer, dealing with a lot of kind of bullying in the legal profession, but also unprocessed trauma related to my divorce. Oh my gosh, all of that just started flooding into my psychology research and into my writing. I held a lot of the personal stuff back in the Introverted Lawyer book. There is some memoir stuff in the introduction to that book, because who's going to read a book about that's a self-help book or a psychology book for lawyers unless you share your own story. So I did, but I was so nervous about it. So I remember that book came out in 2017, and it was sort of me just scratching the surface of putting my own story into writing in the legal profession. And it worked. The most hilarious thing, though, I think that came out of me publishing The Introverted Lawyer was suddenly this quiet introvert with a blushing issue was thrust onto the public speaking stage because I had a book tour, basically. And I wanted to go, but I was scared, to law firms and bar associations and law schools and other public venues to talk about my introversion book. And I had to practice what I preach and be able to get up there and talk about, this topic that was very important to me. But I started just sharing very openly how scared I was to be on the stage. But it taught me a lot. So that was the first book. I can continue into the second book if you want, but I'll let you speak.
I do want to hear the second book and the third book, but I'm wondering, how are you now with speaking?
I really love it now. I still get very nervous, but through writing, so after I published the Introverted Lawyer book, all these people were coming up to me at my book talks saying, I'm not an introvert, I'm actually an extrovert, but I'm scared. I'm scared to go, stand up to that. There's a lot of bullying in the legal profession. So people were afraid to stand up to someone in their office who was yelling at them, for instance, or they were scared to go negotiate. And that led me to research. I wanted to write a book about fear, but I didn't want to call it Facing Your Fears or Conquering Your Fears. Everybody told me my entire life, fake it till you make it. I can't, when you're a blusher like me, you can't fake anything. So
Surprise, I can tell.
I know. I wanted to untangle. I always want to rip something up when I say the word untangle. Fear. And in writing the Untangling Fear book, I had to dive into my public speaking anxiety and understand what was happening in my body. And so I put myself in boxing lessons, which, talking about the boxing gear is the best part. But I learned to understand, when I'm nervous or afraid or feel like everyone's looking at me, I either hold my breath or I hyperventilate. And the boxing lessons, which was like the hardest physical thing I'd ever done in my life, really taught me a lot about controlling my breathing, regulating my breathing, and also feeling strong in my body. And so I kind of channeled all that energy into writing the fear book, which then led to me writing this book called The Flourishing Lawyer, where like you, I went back to school. I went back to school the year the pandemic hit. I went back to school at the age, you're much younger than I am, but at the age of 50, I went back to school and I got my master's in a subset of psychology called Applied Positive Psychology. And all of that research went into my Flourishing Lawyer book. But about 60 pages of that book is somatic intelligence, is about our bodies and how, a lot of our fear and anxiety and performance issues can be, I don't want to say solved, but understood through paying attention to what's happening in our physicality that affects our mental and emotional states. So that's kind of how the progression of those three books came. And to answer your question in a roundabout way, I'm able now to get up and do public speaking in a way that I get excited about it. And even though I still have really kind of extreme nervous symptoms, I can recognize them faster and practice a lot of these routines and rituals that help me calm down and be able to step into the performance arena and actually enjoy it now. It's fun.
That was probably the best answer I've ever heard. So
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
I do want to get in. I mean, I guess it's not your newest book, but it's your last book you released, which was June of last year, almost a year. The Map I Draw. Yes. We're going to do this again, clapping. The quick, like 5-letter thing description, it says roam, write, heal, age powerfully. So this book is, people don't know, is about your life, but it's pretty, I feel like, different. I mean, there is parts of your life in the other lawyer books, but this is a little bit different.
Yes.
Travel memoir and stuff. So tell me about the creation of this book, because I know you were traveling and you love doing that. When were you like sitting down and said, I'm going to write this in a book?
Yeah. I mean, I really love reading the travel memoir genre. So I always had, and I love traveling. In writing the three lawyer books, I realized that I have four well-being pillars. I do a lot of talks on well-being stuff for law students and lawyers, and I tell my audiences I have four well-being pillars. Writing is one of them. Boxing lessons was the second one. I'm sort of obsessed with the Irish rock band U2, so U2 music is the third. And then travel, mostly solo travel, is my fourth well-being pillar. But I'd been, I'm a law professor, so I was writing my books about the law and writing law review articles and things that I was, quote, supposed to do. But I always wanted to write a travel memoir. And then when the pandemic hit and we couldn't go anywhere, I was in lockdown for 3 months, kind of staring at my passport, like, and I was supposed to go to Rome for my 50th birthday by myself to celebrate, and I couldn't. It was exactly when we shut down. So I decided, as a coping mechanism, I was going to write about Rome. So I went back through all my journal. My first trip to Rome was in 2013, and I had sort of this inciting incident with my dad before I went on that Rome trip. I won't describe what it is, but it's the introduction to the travel book. And he kind of laid down this gauntlet, and I was like, oh, I am going to prove my dad wrong. And so I go to Rome in 2013. So in the pandemic lockdown, I started writing about that chapter. I went back through all my journals. I looked back through all my photos, and the story, true story, fell onto the page. And then I was like, okay, well, now I want to write. I was starting to think about the trips that had the most impact on me. And I did this trip to Mexico when I was going through another relationship trauma. And I did this sweat lodge experience with a shaman. And I'm like, ooh, I think that would make a good chapter. And so I just started writing about these trips that had such a huge impact on me in terms of healing from these. I had that 12-year relationship and then another 8-year relationship after that in my 30s. So, relationship in my 20s that was like super formative, relationship in my 30s. And then I'm also a minister's kid, a preacher's kid. So I have a lot of like issues around religion and spirituality. And so those themes were just coming through these chapters, and I saw a book form. I totally just saw this book. I know I've got a book in me when I can sort of see the arc of the storyline, and so that's how the book came about. The actual writing of it, I mean, it started how I described, but when I decided it was going to be a book, I approached it how I do all my books, where I have like a really strict writing schedule, and I just hunker down and, for 2 hours every morning for like 60 days straight, I just worked on the manuscript, and then I had the raw materials of a terrible manuscript, but something I could work with and edit and massage. But that book took me much longer than my others. My other books took about 18 months from start to finish. This one took me 5 years to write it, get feedback, edit, and then produce it and launch it. So yeah, I love this book a lot.
So, I always ask. I don't ask authors anymore because I know picking your favorite book is like picking your favorite child. But I can tell this book, The Map I Draw, is your passion project. I know the other three were also your passion, but this one, it took so much time because you were so involved of making it your passion project.
Yes, yes. And I healed, like through writing the book. It sounds so cheesy, but this book, it like healed a lot of me. I still have a lot of work to do, but it's also a genre that I want to write for the rest of my life. So I would say, the introverted book, my little book, is because it's smaller than the other ones. I think that's the one that feels like, oh, I'm so proud of that book. And then the other two I'm proud of, but the introverted book, the introverted lawyer book, and then the map I draw are like my soul. I mean, my soul is in those two books, and I think the map I draw is really inspiring me to. I think I finally know the kind of author that I want to be for the rest of my life, and I'm not afraid to write about the things that look unpretty, about myself on paper. So I'm grateful to that book for empowering me to do that.
I was like, I'm gonna be TMI. It's almost my time of the month, and I'm kind of getting teary. I'm like, I never cry. I'm like, okay, can we go to the next question?
We
Okay.
can cry. We can cry. I cry all the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's funny because the map I draw is on my book wish list, so I'm wondering if it's at my library. I gotta check that out. But I absolutely think a travel memoir is amazing, and I think that it's kind of scary sometimes. Because I always want to do a travel memoir, but like a little travel scrapbook, a little bit. But I don't go outside the U.S., so I always question myself. I like to travel. I can do solo things. Will people care? But then I'm like, that this is like not even the question I was going to ask, but I'm going to say it. Will people care?
I care. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear about your camping trip.
Well, Heidi, that was really nice of you. I always think that if I don't do something wild and crazy, okay, I'm not saying going out to Mexico is wild and crazy, but like if I don't do something that pulls people in, is there a market for it? Well, I wouldn't say market. Will people read it?
Yeah, that's a great thing for us as writers to think about. Like I have this really fun travel friend. When I don't travel alone, I have a few people very particular. I'm very particular about who I
Me too.
travel with. But yeah, because the wrong travel partner is a disaster. But I have this amazing travel friend named Jenna, and so when I travel with her, she's the planner because I just kind of roll with whatever she wants to do. And we went to Morocco together. And it's so funny because you would think, oh my gosh, Morocco is such an interesting place. It's so rich in culture and food and experiences. I have nothing to write about in terms of that would fit into my travel book because nothing happened. But like Jenna and I got along really great. We didn't meet any dudes or whatever. Like we ate great food, but I didn't have any conflict. Like we didn't have any, nothing went wrong. Not that things have to go wrong for there to be a good story, but Jenna and I always laugh because our trips are too, too planned. Like nothing, and I think that's how, for me being a solo traveler, something always goes wrong. I order the, I like to speak the different languages where I go, but I'm not fluent in any of them. So I'm constantly ordering like octopus instead of meatballs or like, and there's two words in Italian that sound very alike, and one is cauliflower and the other is horse. So like I have made some ordering mistakes, but that's funny, and that's like gives me something to grab onto and write about. Whereas this amazing trip I went on in Morocco, there's no real story there for me to put in a book that would make people care, I think, enough about that adventure. So I totally get what you're saying. So I think I would love to read a book by you about travels in America. And like in my next book, I have a lot of trips. Well, I have a chapter I want to write about Las Vegas and Sedona, Arizona, because stuff happened there. So I think we just have to be choosy about the stories in which there's conflict or there's learning or we did something scary or we did something amazing and overcame a challenge, etc., to give it a little bit of zest.
The big thing I want to say here is I feel validated, so thank you.
Good.
I gotta ask you, because you kind of like hinted a little bit, but I'm gonna ask you, what's next for Heidi K. Brown?
Yes. Well, I am working on the second travel memoir. I honestly feel like this is the genre I want to write in for the rest of my life. I may have said all I need to say about the legal profession. It's funny, in my job as a law professor, I'm supposed to write these long, heavily researched articles, but my genres are either an 800-word blog or a 300-page book. There is no in between. So, but I'm working on the next travel memoir. I've narrowed it down to 11 trips, but I kind of liked that my last book, The Map I Draw, had 10 trips. It was like a nice even number. So I'm trying to decide, do I want to put 11 into this book? In the last book, Rome was featured. It's in chapter 1 and chapter 10. The whole journey begins and ends in Rome with 8 other destinations in between over a span of, I think, 8 years. In that book, this book will definitely span from 2020 to present day. And so that's what I'm working on. And it'll have 3 themes. One is going to be my finally having healthy relationships, romantic relationships, because I've done a lot of dumb things. 2 is kind of healing a bit of spiritual trauma that I've had in my lifetime. And then 3rd is continuing to age powerfully, because I'm going to be 56 in 25 days. So I want to write books that, women of any age, really anyone of any age, but definitely women who might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm getting older. What does that mean? My book is all about, we are fabulous and we got to keep thinking that way.
I am going to say to you, I think I could chat with you for probably 3 days.
Well, we'll just have to do this again.
I would love that too. Heidi, I have so much inspiration coming from you. It's been 30 minutes. So thank you for coming on. You are a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get to know you and follow all your material. And you were such a great interviewer. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
I will be emailing you later and saying, when's the next time you're coming on?
We're doing this again.
Exactly.
Maybe from a foreign country. We will have to, figure that out.
Wait. Have a great day, okay?